William Nylander wants more ice time. To talk about that, here's Mark Masters. Mark, Nylander averaged almost 20 minutes of ice per game last season. That's down to about 18 per minutes under Craig Berube now. Guys always want more ice, but they usually keep that conversation behind closed doors. But Willie put it out there. What did you think of that?
Well, Nylander's a pretty confident guy. He's in the first year of a new rich contract extension. I'm not surprised he'd be the kind of guy to go public with this if that's what he's feeling. It's interesting. We've seen him and Craig Berube having a lot of, it seems like, animated talks on the ice early in this season, and we didn't know exactly what we're talking about. Now I think we get a better idea of what exactly has been happening here, as Nylander, who leads the team in goals this season, is wanting to play more. He got a pretty regular shift on the penalty kill last season. That hasn't been the case this year. He says he'd like to penalty kill more, but right now it's actually Austin Matthews who's on that top penalty kill unit alongside Mitch Marner. So that's where some of the ice time is going. And actually, right now, we might see Nylander play even less because he's not on the top power play unit. As of last game, he was bumped off the top unit, which, of course, has been struggling. So it's really going to be fascinating to see how this relationship plays out with the new head coach who's been brought in here to get this core over the hump in the playoffs, and the core guys who are under contract, at least Nylander is, in particular, who are accustomed to a certain style here and getting the minutes. And it'll be fascinating to watch this play out, Gino.
Isn't that a good thing, though, Mark, given the fact that doing things the same over and over again was resulting in bad results from the Leafs standpoint in playoff time? And now Austin Matthews getting animated conversations with Berube. Nylander having conversations both in front and behind the camera with Craig Berube. We've seen shifts in lines. We've seen Tavares playing with different line mates. Isn't that a good thing that we know that Berube is now putting his stamp on this team and that no one's job and no one's ice time is safe?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that you want there to be some level of guys being uncomfortable at times, right? Because it's going to be uncomfortable in the playoffs, and the team has struggled when it's gotten uncomfortable at times in the playoffs. So, it was interesting. Berube was asked about what the ideal ice time would be for William Nylander, and he just kind of laughed. And I think he handled it fine. He said, I don't mind Nylander asking for more ice time. I think you'd want guys to want more ice time. Now, where you get into trouble is if Nylander isn't playing well, and his point is, if you want me to play to my abilities, to the best of my abilities, you got to give me more ice time. And Nylander had a bit of a dip recently, right? He went the 3 games without a point, and Berube said he could sense frustration coming through. Well, part of the frustration was he feels he should be playing more. So it is a line that you have to walk, but Berube certainly has pushed the right buttons in the past. He's gotten the St. Louis Blues over the hump, and you can't argue with what he did there. But you got to be, I guess, a little bit careful to make sure that you keep everyone on their toes, but you make sure you don't prevent them from playing to their peak.
So Nylander, the timing of this going public is pretty funny because he's coming off a game where he had a goal and 2 assists, and his line mates, Pacioretty had 3 assists, and John Tavares had the hat trick. That line was pure gold. Is that a one-off? Are they going to stick with this? Do you expect that kind of, we don't expect that kind of production every night, but did they see enough from that line to keep them together, at least temporarily moving forward?
I mean, they were together at practice yesterday. I would think you wouldn't want to mess with something that worked so well in that game. It's interesting, you got 3 guys that all like to shoot the puck, right? Nylander's got a great shot. Pacioretty scored a lot in the league. John Tavares has a great shot. But it worked really well, and Pacioretty and Tavares mucking it up down low below the dots, using their size. They're so strong on pucks. Pacioretty feels like he can be even stronger. He called it more violent when he has the puck to create time and space. He knows that his role at this time of his career is to be more physical, so he really wants to up that. But I think it's just funny. It's kind of like Nylander and the 2 kind of older guys. Tavares and Pacioretty, a lot of talk yesterday at practice about how similar they are. Ryan Reeves played with Pacioretty in Vegas. Obviously, he spent time with Tavares here in Toronto. He says they're very close and very similar with the routines they have. And it's been interesting to see Pacioretty's kind of been following Tavares' routine in Toronto, working with the skating consultant before practice, Patrick O'Sullivan on the player development staff to try and get the most out of his game. So they get along really well. Pacioretty says he really meshes well with old school mentality players like Tavares who like to talk about every play and build chemistry that way. So they really it felt like they caught lightning in a bottle in Winnipeg. So I would expect we're going to see to start this game. I don't know how long it will last, but I expect that based on what we saw on Monday, they'll get a run here.
Goal scorers on this team. Speaking of runs, there's one particular guy who could probably start scoring some more goals. The goal scoring leaders on the Leafs right now, Nylander, Tavares, Matthew Nyes, and then Austin Matthews. This is a guy who hasn't gone, over the last 5 games, hasn't scored a single goal 5-on-5. Is there any concern at all in that situation surrounding Matthews?
No, Gino, there isn't, because you just know it's going to come, right? Like, I mean, Matthews has just been so consistent. It is eyebrow raising that he hasn't scored at 5-on-5 in the last 5 games, because he's the best even strength goal scorer in the game. He's the best goal scorer in the game. Obviously, he hasn't come on the power play either, although one of his last 2 goals was on a power play in a game here against Tampa Bay. The goal he scored, of course, on Saturday in Boston was a 6-on-5 situation, but you know, Nyes scores his goal in Winnipeg. It's a rebound on a Matthews shot. So he's still creating. They like that line. They think it's going to come. It was positive that they were able to, you know, pick up the win in Winnipeg without him, you know, scoring one of those goals. So there's not much concern when it comes to Austin Matthews and goal scoring, Gino.
I got a question about the goaltending, and I'm looking at the schedule. The Leafs tonight's game, then Saturday, Sunday, back-to-back. So they've got 3 games in 4 nights. It would seem that if you're going to bring Joseph Woll in, you're going to throw him in on one of the back-to-backs Saturday and Sunday, but it looks like he's going to start tonight. Is that the case?
Yeah, he's going to start tonight. It is interesting, the back-to-back. Let's start with tonight first. I think it does make sense to get him back in tonight. Anthony Stolarz is coming off a win, but he's also allowed 4 goals in the last 2 games. So he's kind of come down a little bit from that amazing high that really wasn't sustainable, obviously, early in the season, where he was just lights out incredible. So some goals have gone in. He's played a lot. There was travel recently. So get Joseph Woll back in. You got to get him up and running here. Where it gets interesting to me is if Woll plays well tonight, he's from St. Louis. He's never played in his hometown. Do you give him the first start of the back-to-back and then have Stolarz play Minnesota on Sunday? The Saturday game is Berube's homecoming game as well, his first game back in St. Louis, so you know there's going to be a little extra juice in that game for him. It will be a fascinating decision. I think you have to see what Woll looks like tonight. Of course, he played the Blues and lost in his first game of the season. How can he build on that? You know, that was a tough start for him. You know, the Leafs did not play very well in that game. So let's see what Woll can do tonight, and then we'll have to watch what happens at practice tomorrow and see if Woll is in line. I know, just talking to him off camera yesterday, he's super pumped to go to St. Louis. He's got dinner plans on Friday. Like, this will be a really special trip for him. I'm sure he would love to play in that game in St. Louis, but let's see how tonight goes first, Gino, before we start projecting forward with the goalies.
Mark, I love our conversations. They're always great chats, but I'm a little bit disappointed today for your lack of attire. It is Halloween, and nothing on your front, Mark. It's very un-Mark Masters-like, and Masters Nation is clearly disappointed. Were there any good stories about at least Leaf costumes who were willing to take that risk and come out there celebrating Halloween, Mark?
Yeah, the Leafs had their Halloween party this week after they got back from Winnipeg. They had a 2-day break between games here, so that was a good time to fit it in there. A lot of talk about that this morning as the pictures have started filtering out. A bunch of the Swedish players all dressed up with a Harry Potter theme, the different houses of Harry Potter. I know Morgan Riley was getting a lot of love for Beetlejuice, and then Austin Matthews, a big Star Wars fan, going Darth Vader. You know, he hit him with the 4 in his first NHL game. Now he's hitting him with the Force maybe tonight, coming off his Halloween costume. As for me, Gino, Leafs fans get scared easily enough. They're probably freaking out about this whole Nylander Berube thing, so I don't need to scare them anymore with any sort of costumes.
Hey, listen, you brought us a nice treat in Nylander publicly asking for more ice time, so that's fair enough. Mark, happy Halloween. Enjoy tonight's game, and we'll talk afterwards.